Okay. So as you know, my name's Leigh, and as Daniel just said, I'm now the National Coordinator for Smart Recovery in Wales. So I've been in this role for 4 years now, and my job is to promote and develop and support SMART right across Wales. So I work with some of the substance misuse policy workers from Welsh Government, down through all the drug and alcohol services, probation, prisons, and of course peers and facilitators in the community. How I got involved with SMART was back in 2009. I went into a CBT rehab after battling a serious alcohol addiction for over 10 years. And I tried other recovery paths, other forms of mutual aid, but there was nothing that really kind of helped me. So I guess my first introduction of SMART and CBT and REBT was spending 5 months within the residential rehab. But when I came out in 2010, although I was very determined and very focused in my own recovery, something that I found started to happen, I guess, with the challenges of life and just getting back to day-to-day life, was some of my old way of thinking had started to come back. So I realised that I needed some support, went along and spoke to my doctor, and was referred over to AA. And after a long conversation of reasons why the fellowships didn't work for me, it works for millions of people, but it just didn't work for me. We kind of did some research, and I came across SMART, and it kind of fitted in with everything I'd learned in rehab, and then plus a lot of new tools and techniques and stuff. So I joined the online community, trained as a facilitator, and was very much part of the web team, which involved running about 3 to 4 meetings a week. I also set up a facilitator support meeting. So I carried on doing that probably for about 8 or 9 months to build my confidence up and learn and understand more about SMART recovery. And then at the beginning of 2011, I went out in the community and started the first ever SMART recovery meeting in Wales, which was really successful, and I'm very much needed, because one thing I guess that was lacking here in Wales, and I know in other parts of the world, and also other parts of the UK, is having that choice in recovery. So it was having that acceptance that, you know, recovery is a very individual journey. What works for one doesn't work for another. So we need to have lots of, you know, as many options as we can to help people. So I carried on with that meeting, and also this thinking that, you know, we need to get this out there. We need to change the thinking that there's only one way to recover, and to see people not as alcoholics or addicts, but to see them as individual people. It's about seeing the person. And I think that's also what really attracted me to SMART, was the fact that I wasn't seen as an alcoholic. I was seen as a person that, you know, had some challenging behaviours, but nothing that couldn't be overcome. Then in 2012, I took on the role as VRC, which is Volunteer Regional Coordinator. So with that then, it meant that I could do a bit more than just facilitating meetings. I could actually go out there, and go out there I did. And I banged on every door, from Welsh Government to all the substance misuse services, to talk about SMART. There was a little bit of resistance, I guess, to start with, and like that's the same when, you know, there's something new and people don't understand, and especially with SMART, they weren't sure what it was about. Some people thought that it was just another form of the fellowships because it's under the umbrella of mutual aid. So it was just continuously doing that, you know, knocking on doors saying, can I just come and do a presentation on SMART? And once people started to really understand what SMART recovery was, they really embraced it, particularly here in Wales. A lot of the services, I'd probably say about 80 to 85% of the services here, part of their treatment plan is the CBT route. So when I worked with the CPN nurses, they just absolutely loved Smart because it just carried on with what they had already been doing, working with their clients. And the other thing that Smart did, and I guess mutual aid does as a whole, is bridge that gap between people leaving treatment services, whether that be a community service or rehabs. And it kind of gives that aftercare, which again, I mean, I think we've come a long way, but we're still kind of seriously lacking in that. So that has been really helpful. So I carried on doing what I was doing, getting out there, kind of waving the Smart banner, speaking to anyone and everyone that would listen. Went along to any conference that was going on that was to do with substance misuse. Spoke to people there and managed to create enough interest that our director at the time said, right, we kind of need somebody in Wales now. We're a very, very small staff team here in the UK. At the time that I took on the role, there were only 4 other people across the UK, and only 2 of them were national coordinators. So there was only 2 people on the ground. So in 2014, I took on the role as national coordinator, and again, kind of did really the same as what I was doing as BRC, but having the title of national coordinator helped to open a lot more doors. I managed to build up some really good relationships with representatives of Welsh Government, and also I set up meetings with the CEOs and directors of all the drug and alcohol services, got in there, asked if, to do a Smart presentation, not just for them, but for their staff and also some of their service users, members, clients. They're all have different labels, but the people that use their services as well. And just continued on like that. And it's been going amazingly well. So much so that in North Wales, I mean, you probably see on the map, Wales looks tiny, but it is actually quite big, and there's a lot of rural areas, and this is where people kind of struggle to get to face-to-face meetings. So back in January, I met with the lead commissioner of North Wales, and we sat and talked about Smart and the benefits of, I come at it more than, it's not just about selling Smart, it's about selling choice in recovery. It's about helping people to understand, like I said earlier, that we are all individual people. And certainly recovery for me didn't just come from Smart. It didn't just come from the fact that I spent 5 months in a rehab. My recovery has probably come from about 5 or 6 different things. So it's really getting people to understand that. So in the UK, we work on a partnership basis, because back kind of 6-7 years ago, Smart was struggling a bit here in the UK. So we were looking at ways that we could develop it. So we came up with a partnership scheme. So how this works is we sign a partnership agreement, a licensing agreement, if you like, with the drug and alcohol services, which means that their staff, initially, they're called Smart Champions. They start and initiate the meetings within their service, and they run the meetings for a number of weeks for their clients, and then they identify people within the groups to then train as facilitators to take over, and then it becomes peer-led, and that's worked really well, and it is a good thing to have. But what I started to think was, at the heart of what Smart is, it is about peers. It's a peer-led, it's people in recovery helping people in recovery. And I felt to a certain extent that we were kind of in danger of losing that a bit. Because what I was finding also, that some of the services that I was working with were kind of became quite precious about Smart, and it was about, this is our thing, instead of passing it over. So then I thought I need to look at ways that I can develop SMART in a way that it becomes predominantly peer-led again. So like I say, in January, I met with the lead commissioner in North Wales, and we talked about this. And, you know, I said, ideally what I need to do, or what I would like to do, is set up a peer community right across North Wales, where we can have meetings in rural areas, and it's going to help build up a SMART community so facilitators can support each other. Because again, it's, you know, when you're out there, and I appreciate that Australia is probably a lot more rural in areas than Wales, but we needed to set up a support network where, you know, facilitators could support facilitators. They loved the idea. They could see the benefits of it. Again, you know, fill in that gap for the aftercare. So they gave me £40,000 for a year, which enabled me to take on a person up in North Wales who was doing amazingly well. So we've now got across North Wales, I think, 10 meetings. So to help support this, something else that I've developed and I really push here in Wales is the training. Now, initially, I mean, I did my training online, and that was fine. But we can't, I have a little bit of a bone of contention with it, I guess, in the sense of we can't take for granted that everybody's got computers. We can't take for granted that everybody's computer literate. And for some people, they learn better when they're in a face-to-face situation with people. So what I've done is taken our online training and I've taken it out into the community. So in North Wales, for instance, every 3 months, I will go up to North Wales and I put on a 2-day training course where I train between 12 and 16 new peers to come in and train as facilitators. So at the end of the 2 days, they're qualified facilitators. They have a deeper understanding of SMART because, you know, they can ask questions as we go along. I can really explain things to them to make sure that they get the most out of this so they can go out there and do these meetings successfully. So that's worked really, really well. What we've also done, I've recently rewritten the training for the family and friends. We do have the family and friends training again online, but it's in a very basic form. So we needed to look at a way that we could redo the training, you know, because it needed to be more in depth. So people, you know, again, could get a proper understanding. So that's the second stage now that we're going to be doing in North Wales, is taking out the family and friends training, which is being absolutely embraced because there is, I mean, I don't know what it's like in Australia, but here in Wales, there's not much for families. And I've been facilitating family and friends meetings now online for about 4 years. And I've really seen the benefits and the difference that this program has made to people's lives. It's just been absolutely phenomenal. So because the interest, we are now in partnership in Wales with all the drug and alcohol services. I've now just finished working with the prisons. Wales has just opened the first ever super prison. So I've just last week been up to work with them, and they've signed a 3-year, or they want a 3-year partnership with SMART to start with. So I'm going up in September to train the staff first and foremost, and then I'll be going in then to train the guys that are in there. So again, we can keep this consistency of how the partnership works. It'll be the prison officers who will initially start the meetings, and then the peers themselves then will take over the meetings and they'll become peer-led. The difference with the prisons, as you can understand, is even though they will be qualified as facilitators, they can only facilitate those meetings whilst in the prison. When they leave, it's not so much they have to go through the training again, but obviously we have to do checks for safeguarding reasons, and look at that. But because SMART over the last 4 years has really grown in Wales, it's enabled me to do now is put on the first ever SMART Recovery Welsh Conference, which is going to happen in September the 28th. If any of you want to fly over to come to that, you're more than welcome. So that's really exciting, and it's also testament to how well SMART is doing here in Wales. And I know in other parts of the UK, it's going really well. Also, sorry, I'm talking loads. Please, if there's anything you want to say, just let me know. But the other really exciting development we've had here in Wales, and again, it's the first time in the UK. I teamed up with a service called Drug Aid, and they work with adults, but they also run a teen service. So we brought over back in April the teen program, and I'm not sure whether that's running in Australia, but I know in the US they do run the teen program as well. So we've brought that over here, and we're going to pilot it for a year and see how that goes, and then we're going to take the model then and run that out through the other teen services, not just here in Wales, but also out in the UK as well. And we've been really fortunate as well, because we've got another organisation over here called Alcohol Concern, which is now changed to Alcohol Research, and they came on board as well. And what I wanted to do, particularly with the teens, because kind of it's a different group, so we have to come at it in a different way. And like anything, people feel part of something, yeah, and they have a sense of ownership. They're more likely to really, get involved with it and maintain their involvement in it. So I spoke to Alcohol Concern, and I said, look, we've got this team manual. It's very basic, and at the moment we don't have a front cover. So would you be willing to give the funding for us to get the teams to design their own cover, and therefore creating that sense of ownership? Which they've done, and we've just been given the design, which is fantastic, because there's no one else who's going to really understand how to connect with another team than teams themselves. Yeah, so they knew the kind of things that needed to be on that front cover that would attract other teams, or at least get their interest into looking at that. So wow, that's it in a nutshell, really. An overview of kind of Wales, my journey with SMART, and also what I'm doing here in Wales as the national coordinator.
That's great. Thank you.
And it's only 7:30 in the morning.
we appreciate, you did say you were up early, so I'm not going to feel too bad about it, but I do appreciate your time today. It's just really encouraging not only to hear your story and your journey from a peer to being a national coordinator. It's encouraging the people in the room that things like that are possible, but also just inspiring and encouraging to hear of the greater SMART community and how it's working over there. And this is the reason that we put this day on, because we do see the investment and the importance in peers, and we want to use this as a bit of a launch platform for developing a peer program further on, and integrating some of the things that you mentioned about that peer support and that forum and all these webinars and various different things that we're looking to develop. So it's encouraging to know that you guys are in that process as well, and the Smart Recovery International Board will hopefully work collaboratively together to take SMART further on. So I just wondered if there was maybe one or two questions, if anyone had anything they wanted to ask Leigh at all, or Barney.
just blown away.
Yeah, I'm totally overwhelmed. Wow.
I think it's just in general awe and appreciation of what you've done, Leigh. So thank you so much again, and enjoy your morning coffee and go get some breakfast if you've not had it already.
Yes.
We're wrapping up soon and going out for a nice meal because it's 4:30 in the evening for us. So, all right. Well, thank you again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.